Welcome everyone. Today we are doing overrated, underrated, or properly rated with NFL wide receivers. Now, you guys may see there is so many wide receivers on this filter. I'm going to go through the ones that I think deserve a mention. And if there's some receivers that I don't put in the tier list, don't get too upset. We also have the rookie tier for guys that we don't know about. It's kind of unfair to overrate or underrate a rookie. So let's just get right into it. We're just going to go from top to bottom to start. Marvin Harrison Jr. I honestly think he's a bit underrated just based on the fact that people were really hating on him last season. I can't talk about each receiver for too long. I'm going to say underrated because people were definitely disrespecting a very solid season from him. I think this is Michael Wilson. I don't even think I need to rank him. Greg Dortch. I think Greg Dortch is underrated. I think he could be a solid receiver in the NFL. Drake London, we're going to move to. He's perfectly rated. Some people overrate him, some people underrate him. He's about in the middle. I don't know if he's top 10, like some people say. He's definitely in my top 20, top 15. Like, Madden glazed him a bit too much, but there's some people that think he's not even top 20, which is crazy. So, I think perfectly rated for Drake London. Darnell Mooney, again, another really underrated receiver. Had a great season last year with Kirk Cousins and at the end Michael Penix. I expect him to continue to be one of the better wide receiver twos in the NFL. We're going to skip the rest of the Falcons. We're going to go to the Ravens. Zay Flowers. I think at this point, Zay Flowers is slightly overrated. Now, people might take the screenshot and say, oh, you think Zay Flowers is overrated? Just the slightest bit. I don't think he's top 20 or 25 in terms of NFL receiver rankings. Hopefully that isn't too crazy to say. I just think that Zay Flowers had a little bit of a down year last year. Well, it's not what I think. It's proven stats that it wasn't his best year last year. So I'm going to say overrated for now until he can continue to, give us some better production. Rashad Bateman's an interesting one. I'll say perfectly rated because he's getting the credit he deserves now. He's not like a top 15 receiver or anything near that, but he's getting his credit as a very solid wide receiver too, a good weapon for Lamar, and I think perfectly rated is fair for him. D-Hop, at this point, he feels kind of underrated. People think he's like just completely horrible now. He's not. He can still give you 600, 700 yards in a season. Can still get you some touchdowns, some really nice catches. He still is a solid NFL receiver, but people are saying he's like not even deserving of a roster spot anymore, which is a little bit crazy in my opinion. Khalil Shakir, I'm going to be honest, used to be really underrated. Now he's kind of overrated, especially when you look at his pay. He's getting paid like wide receiver one money when he's really not a wide receiver one. Like, no disrespect to Shakir, but he should not be getting I don't know exactly what the contract is, but it's definitely an overpay for him. Who is this Keon Coleman? How did I forget his name? Anyway, Keon Coleman, he's gotten hated on so much. I'm still going to just say perfectly rated. He needs to prove some more in the NFL before we can really say he's underrated or, good. Because we don't fully know yet. And this is Joshua Palmer. Underrated. Very solid receiver and is never going to get the credit he deserves. Maybe now that he is in Buffalo, people will talk about him more. If he has a solid season, he deserves some extra credit because he has been a very solid receiver throughout his career. And now he gets to play with Josh Allen. We don't need to do Curtis Samuel. Ted McMillan, that's going to be our first rookie. Adam Thielen's really underrated. People think, oh, he's just another washed-up receiver. He is still really good. You can watch him run routes. He is a very skilled route runner, even at his older age. And he is definitely, at the bare minimum, a below-average wide receiver too. If not a medium to above average wide receiver too, still. Xavier Leggett, I'm gonna say perfectly rated for him. I don't hear too much about him, but he had kind of a weak season, especially compared to the other rookie receivers. Just not anything too special to write home about. But he's not overrated either. Hunter Renfro, this is tough. I guess I'll say perfectly rated. I mean, we haven't seen him play in a minute. He had some really bad sickness that stopped him from playing last season. He's back on Carolina now, so hopefully he can show his route running, his just elite footwork once again with the Carolina Panthers. DJ Moore. Now, keep in mind for the Bears receivers, I am a Bears fan, so just take that with a grain of salt before I answer these. But I'm going to say DJ Moore, he's gotten so overhated. I hate to say underrated, but overhated. I'm going to give him perfectly rated as like a top 15, borderline top 10 receiver when he's on. It's hard to say that he's top 10 after not getting 1,000 yards when there's at least 10, 15 guys that get it every season. You know, when you don't get that 1,000 yards, it's hard to say you're top 10. Rome Odunze is really underrated. I mean, no one ever talks about him, and he underratedly had some incredible catches and plays last season. Just no one talked about it because it was a 5-win Bears team that collapsed halfway through the year after the Hail Mary. But Rome Odunze was one of the only bright spots on the team, and I expect him to be the wide receiver 1 for the foreseeable future. You obviously want that to be the case, top 10 pick. But I do think by the end of this season, he will have passed up DJ Moore on the depth chart as the wide receiver 1. This is Luther Burden, obviously going to be rookie. Alameda Zacchaeus, he is going to get meaningful playing time this season, so I think I should rate him. He's perfectly rated. Not too much to say there. Jamar Chase, perfectly rated as a top 2, if not number 1 receiver in the league. Well deserved. T. Higgins used to be underrated. It's going to be kind of crazy. I think he's slightly overrated now. People think he's a top 15 receiver, and I don't blame you for saying that, but he's not. He's more like in the 25 to 20 range. Maybe on a good day, he goes at like 18, 17. It's just people have him above most wide receiver 1s, which, in my opinion, is not true. We're going to skip this guy and go to Andre Yosevas. Really underrated. Really great receiver, especially as a wide receiver 3. One of the best wide receiver 3s in the NFL. Obviously going to look better because Joe Burrow's his QB. But let's not take that away from Yosef's production last season. Jerry Jeudy, again, another underrated receiver. There's not too much to say. He's just not really talked about as one of the best when you look at his stats last season, he was one of the best. At least top 15 in terms of stats last season. Cedric Tillman, I don't really have anything to say. Just gonna go perfectly rated for him. He's not good, not bad. You know, I don't really know what to say. Deontay Johnson, you know what? For the sake of it, let's just put him in overrated. You know, we don't really need to talk about him too much. He is overrated by NFL teams because I don't know how he still is getting jobs. Let's move on to the Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb is inherently perfectly rated as a top 5 receiver. I get it. The Cowboys are going to get glazed a little bit more. But CeeDee Lamb, you cannot deny him being outside the top 5 in terms of NFL receivers right now. George Pickens, he's going to be overrated. He's going from the Steelers to the Cowboys, 2 of the biggest franchises in the league, 2 of the most watched franchises in the league, and people just love him. He's not a bad receiver. He's going to be really nice next to CeeDee Lamb in Dallas, but for people that say he's top 15, you really need to calm down. Just take a moment, take a breath, calm down, and put it away for a little bit. Anyone else on the Cowboys I need to rank? I think this is Cavante Turpin, this guy. I'll say Cavante. He did get arrested, but he's underrated. You know, he made All Pros a punt/kick returner. he's a good receiver. He deserves more respect. Cortland Sutton used to be super underrated. He still is underrated slightly, but he's getting more and more praise. So good for him. Marvin Mims, again, I know I'm giving out so many underrateds, but I never see Marvin Mims hype when he is a really nice wide receiver too. I would be happy if he was on my team. Amon-Ra St. Brown, shoot, I'm gonna get killed for this take, but slightly overrated. I still think he's top 10, but people say he's like top 3. People think it goes Jamar or Justin Jefferson, either way, and then Amon-Ra, which, in my opinion, that is way too high. He's in that like 9 to 5 range. I still think he's an elite receiver. It's just when people say he's top 3, or sometimes even top 5, is kind of pushing it a bit. Like, if he was on a bad team, people would not say he is top 5. JMO, he gets the respect he deserves as a very nice wide receiver, too. Nothing too much to say there. This is Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed, he's a streaky guy. I'll say perfectly rated for him. Matthew Golden, rookie, obviously. Christian Watson, we can just put him in overrated. Again, not a horrible receiver, just way too injury prone and not consistent enough to be in the perfectly rated or underrated tier. We'll do one more Packers receiver. I think this is Bo Melton. I think that's Wicks. We'll do Dobbs. Dobbs is perfectly rated as a serviceable wide receiver. I don't know what the Packers are going to do with that receiving core. Let's see. The Texans. Nico Collins, underrated. In my opinion, he's a top 5 receiver. People don't even think he's top 10. If you don't think he's a top 10 receiver, you're out of your mind. But at least top 5 for Nico Collins. I'm fine if you put him at 5, at 6. I think I have him at about 5, maybe even 4. I'm really high on Nico, so I'm obviously going to say underrated. These guys are both rookies. Christian Kirk, say perfectly rated for him. Tank Dell, it does stink. I want to put him in underrated, but he needs to be on the field more for me to fully say, and fully prove to everyone that he is a great wide receiver. It's just he's not on the field enough. And then moving on to the Colts, Michael Pittman. Oh shoot, we have a lot of receivers left. Okay, I'm gonna start speed running through these now. Michael Pittman, a bit underrated. Josh Downs, definitely underrated. Same thing with Alec Pierce. Really underrated receiving core in Indianapolis, by the way. Travis Hunter, rookie. Brian Thomas, I'll say properly rated as like a top 10 guy right now. Minimum top 12. I'd put him in my top 10. Rashee Rice. Honestly, I'm going to say Worthy's overrated. I'm going to say Rashee Rice is underrated. Rashee Rice was having an incredible start to his last season before he got his, I think it was his ACL, I forgot what muscle, but before it got blown out by Mahomes, he was going to be one of the best receivers in the league. And Worthy is just a little bit overrated in my eyes because he was good, but people were saying he's like top 3 receiver from that class, which he was not. Puka Nacua, perfectly rated as a top 10, close to top 5 guy. Devontae Adams, at this point in his career, he's underrated. People don't like to give him the credit he deserves at this point. He still is a really, really good receiver. I would not mind him being the wide receiver 1 on over half the teams in the league. Let's see here. Don't know a lot of these guys. McConkey. McConkey's underrated. I think he is right now the 3rd best receiver from that draft class. It goes Malik, Brian, then Lab McConkey, and then Marv, Rome. Those guys after. And so underrated for sure for Lab McConkey. And then we have Mike Williams, who retired, so rest in paradise. Mike Williams. Quentin Johnston, I mean, for those two Chargers fans that think he's good, he's overrated. I get it. Everyone thinks he's bad, but it's those two Chargers fans that make me put him in overrated. Let's see. Trey Harris, Ricky. We could go past there. Jacoby Myers really underrated. I really like his skill set. I don't think he's a wide receiver 1 for the Raiders, but he'd be a really nice wide receiver 2. They just need to find a guy that can be a better wide receiver 1 next to Brock Bowers than Jacoby Myers. Once you get that wide receiver 1, that offense will be complete. The only other guy I even want to put in the tier list from the Raiders, I think this guy is Jack Besh. I'm just going to put him in the rookie tier. It doesn't really matter. Tyreek Hill, he's gotten so much hate this past season. I still think he's perfectly rated. I'm canceling out the Glazers and the haters. Kind of put him in the middle of those two tiers. Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle has gotten really underrated. And same thing with his wide receiver 3, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. Ikhine was a touchdown monster for the Titans last year. And Jalen Waddle actually had a really solid year. And I think he's going to be even better this season now with a healthy Tua and Tyreek starting to age a bit. Justin Jefferson, perfectly rated as probably the best receiver in the league. No further comment needed on that. Jordan Addison, I'll say perfectly underrated. He doesn't get the credit he deserves, in my opinion, as one of the best wide receiver 2s in the league. Could probably be a wide receiver 1 for some NFL teams out there, depending on how desperate you are. Stephon Diggs at this point in his career, he's perfectly rated. I don't think he's overrated anymore like he used to be, or underrated like he never was underrated, but I think he's in the middle. Any other Patriots receivers? We'll do Kendrick Bourne. Kendrick Bourne perfectly rated. Demario Douglas perfectly rated. All these Patriots guys, they get their credit they deserve. They're not great. They're not bad. They're just kind of there. So I think that's fair to say. Chris Olave, unfortunately, I have to say a little bit overrated. Kind of like Christian Watson, where talented guy, obviously Olave has a higher ceiling. Just the injuries are stopping them from being on the field as much as we'd like them to be. So I kind of have to go with overrated because people say he's top 10, top 15. I can't put him there right now. Shaheed's underrated. We love some Shaheed action. Hopefully he can bounce back in a nice way this season. We can go past the rest of them. The Giants, Malik Neighbors, perfectly rated. Really, really solid receiver. Probably close to top 5. Maybe just outside the top 5. That's a tough one to say. Garrett Wilson. I honestly think he's a little bit overrated. It's just my personal opinion. You don't have to agree. You don't have to agree with any of these, but I think Garrett Wilson gets hyped up a little bit too much. And maybe he has struggled because of the lack of QB play, but I have to say overrated for now. Alright, moving on to A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown, perfectly rated. No ifs, ands, or buts there. Devontae Smith, underrated. Maybe more important to the Eagles than A.J. Brown, or about the same level. I can't say more important, but very similar level in terms of importance to that Eagles team. DK Metcalf, probably properly rated. It depends how much glaze he's going to get with the Steelers now, but I think perfectly rated is okay for him. And then we got the Steelers. Well, it was just on the Steelers. Anyway, we'll do Calvin Austin. Calvin Austin, say perfectly rated. He's a fine enough NFL player. JSN, underrated. JSN might be top 10. I don't think I'd put him in my top 10. I think I'd put him in my top 15, though. So JSN for sure gets the underrated tag. Cooper Kupp, I'm going to say perfectly rated at this point in his career. Not too much to say about him. Just an aging, still good receiver. That's just not going to be one of the elites. And let's see. Brandon Ayuk, he's gotten so much hate that I think he's became underrated. People have been destroying him for the past season, and yes, it was a rough start, but I think he can bounce back pretty nicely from his ACL injury. Jawan Jennings underrated. Again, just really solid receiver that doesn't get enough respect. Ricky Pearsall for now properly rated. We need to see what he'll do in his second season with a fully healthy Brock Purdy. And then moving on to, sometimes get lost. There's so many receivers on this tier list. Okay, we're here now with Mike Evans. Honestly, used to be underrated, probably properly rated now. Gets the credit he deserves as top 10 receiver in the league. Chris Godwin was on a tear to start the year, but people, I think, underrated or perfectly rated. I'll say perfectly rated, but Emeka Egbuka is going to go rookie. We got to talk about McMillan as one of the most underrated receivers in the league. He's going to be like a wide receiver 4 now on this team, at least for this season. But I honestly really like the draft that they had. Getting Jalen McMillan, getting Emeka Egbuka. Obviously, Jalen McMillan was in the class before Emeka Egbuka. But Chris Godwin coming off an injury, Mike Evans, aging receiver. If you lose both those guys in the next 2 off seasons for some reason, then you at least have Emeka Egbuka and Jalen McMillan as long-term wide receiver pieces. So I actually like that mindset from Tampa, just to stack up on the position with youth and with veteran leadership. Enough of the yap, though. Calvin Ridley. I'll say perfectly rated for Calvin. Perfectly rated. Tyler Lockett, at this point, gotta say overrated. He's just not worth that much anymore. I think people are putting too much respect on his career instead of how he is as a player right now. And we got the Commanders. Terry McLaurin. This is tough to say because I really like Terry McLaurin. I think he's around top 10 receiver range. But people are saying he's better than Justin Jefferson. You might be wondering, who are these people? I don't know, some Instagram commentators. Like, we gotta calm our breaks down. Still a great receiver. Just, I can't put him in that top 5. I don't think he's top 5. And in that case, he's overrated. Deebo Samuel has gotten so much hate, but he still goes perfectly rated as just a fine enough wide receiver that can go and make some plays. It's not going to be like your franchise player or anything. Let's talk about Luke McCaffrey, though, as a really underrated receiver. I like what he did last season. I think he'll be able to develop more in Jaden Daniels' second season. I like his upside for 500 plus yards, a couple of touchdowns. I think that could be possible as a milestone for him. Is this I don't know what team has Allen Robinson and Amari Cooper on the same team? That's so random. But I think the rest of these guys are all free agents. So I'll rank Keenan Allen for the sake of the tier list. Keenan Allen, I think he's a perfectly rated receiver, past his prime, but still doing solid. And this is my tier list. Here is the final recap. As you can tell, I don't like to overrate too many guys. A lot of them are either perfectly rated or underrated. I only have a few overrateds, and that's even stretching it sometimes. I just like for the sake of the tier list, if I sense a bit of overratedness, even though you're not super overrated, I'm just going to put you in that tier to fill it out a little bit more. Because no one would want to see me talk about, oh, are they just underrated or perfectly rated? We got to throw an overrated as a aspect to the tier list. But I think this looks pretty good. I think it's pretty accurate. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think of my tier list. Do you agree with anything? Disagree? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you drop a like, subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.